Hello and welcome to The Drug Trip. This channel is here to feed the curiosity of those who would like to gain an insight to the effects of various drugs and substances through user experiences and stories, with our main goal being to entertain and reduce harm and abuse. We post regular trip reports every few days, so if you do enjoy these, we would really appreciate it if you subscribed. And more importantly, we love to hear our viewers' thoughts, opinions and experiences, so please leave something for us in the comment section and we may use it in a future video. Enjoy and be safe. Following a few hours of screening and getting acquainted with the MRI machine, I had 2 full DMT study days at the Imperial College's Hammersmith Hospital in London as a participant in some cutting-edge brain imaging neuroscience research conducted by researchers at the Imperial College in London. The 2 study days were a week apart. I abstained from all intoxicants a week prior to the study day. I was initially invited to participate in the pilot DMT EEG study via a friend who is paying for the MRI scanning sessions, and I had the opportunity to participate in the study due to other study participants moving about in the scanner and giving poor quality data as a result. On the study day, I arrive at the hospital. I meet with the head neuroscientist whose study it is, another researcher working alongside him, and also the medical doctor who will be injecting me with a high purity synthetic DMT fumarate and also a placebo. I wash my hair in preparation for the EEG skull cap being fitted, while completing a number of questionnaire surveys on a laptop. Electrodes are attached to a number of places over my scalp via a gel that soon solidifies. I'm wired up to the EEG and shown how sensitive it is to noisy data, especially if the face isn't relaxed. So one needs to be really relaxed and very still while undergoing the DMT experience in the MRI for high quality data to be produced. I'm fitted with an injection port in my arm to allow for an easy IV injection of DMT and placebo. I have a good rapport with the Imperial team and feel like I'm in good, safe hands. I've met the leading neuroscientist running the study a number of times, and he's a great guy. There are 4 EEG and fMRI brain scanning sessions, 2 with DMT in the medium and high dosage range, 2 with the saline placebo, and I don't know which order I'll be receiving those dosages in. It was good to have been acquainted with the MRI environment prior to any dosing. My upper body is confined to the MRI tube and my head is secured. For the quality of both the EEG and MRI data, it is imperative that I cannot and do not move. I have eye shades on while being scanned with eyes closed. The scanner is really quite noisy, but despite the noise and the confined, restricted space, I quite quickly start to feel comfortable in there. I was really quite nervous prior to my first dosing. Prior to my first scanning session, I gave a urine sample for a drug test to make sure I was clean. I was fitted to the bed and the scanner and everything was made secure. My head was locked in and I was fitted with earplugs and ear defenders. Eye shades were placed over my eyes and I was loaded into the scanner. Anxiety levels were increasing. I communicate with the study lead through an intercom. He plays a recording of "You are receiving the dose now," and I select my preferred volume over the sound of the baseline scan of my brain. Following the scan, it is time for the dosing. I know that the dosing is now imminent, and I am pretty nervous and my heart is pounding. I receive the dose, and nothing happens. Going on from previous experience in the DMT EEG pilot study, I know it would only be a few seconds before I start feeling the effects if it was DMT. I'm able to relax, knowing that I will not be receiving the dose now. I think this worked quite well, as with more time spent in the MRI scanner, the more comfortable I got being in there. I fill out a variety of questionnaire surveys as we have lunch. Another member of the Imperial team I know comes to pay me a visit with his baby. This is nice and has a soothing effect on my nerves. We then head back to the scanner. A little nervous as I know I will be receiving the dose for sure now. I personally don't enter the DMT space lightly these days. It is not really a love and light experience for me, but rather something much more serious and imposing in tone, if not outright menacing in tone. I'm wired up and loaded back into the scanner with a panic button on hand, and I'm talked through the body scanning session to help relax me. This time around, I will provide an intensity rating every minute. The study lead starts asking me my intensity rating, 0 being no effect and 10 being the most intense drug effect imaginable, so I know dosing is imminent. I hear the dosing notification recording and prepare for blast off. Within a few seconds, there is a distinct shift and expansion of perception behind closed eyelids. The contrast changes dramatically. A silvery screen comes into focus, and from this, geometric patterns of extraordinary beauty and order condense and coalesce and link up in the space of just a few seconds. At the same time, I become aware of this feeling of heat or warm energy in both my hands. This is a pleasant sensation, and for some reason it reassured me. I knew I was going to be okay, so I relaxed and surrendered completely to the experience. It takes me around a minute following the dosing to peak interestingly. At minute 1 I'm at 7, minute 2 I'm at an 8, and by minute 3 I'm already on my way back. A very fleeting and fast moving experience. The geometric visual architecture I'm witness to is outrageously beautiful. I remember coppery, bronzy, metallic colours, navy blue and some neon pink in the centre of my vision during the peak. In the centre of my vision, it was as if there was a light shining into the visual realm, illuminating what I was seeing and splitting up the spectrum of colours to produce a resplendently coloured but localised pool of constantly undulating colours. As the intensity of the peak wears off and I start to come back, I feel in a serene afterglow state, and I nearly tear up in gratitude for having the opportunity to experience something so amazing. I'm completely relaxed into the remainder of the experience, and I realised the anxieties I carried were very much misplaced. I should mention that IV DMT is a very smooth ROA, and I much prefer it to vaping. The transition to DMT space I found was smoother and less jarring than vaping, and due to the smooth entry into DMT, it seems to change the tone of the experience. I imagine at higher doses, things are likely to be more jarring given how efficient ROA is, and I'm really not condoning it, as I was just injected with medical grade DMT by a medical doctor. It was a nice way to fly. Following the experience, I am interviewed in detail about the content of my experience, and I find I can recall a fair bit. I then complete a number of questionnaire surveys to assess my experience in different ways, before having a shower to wash the EE gel off my scalp. I say goodbye to the study and I head home. For the second study day, things were reversed. I got a DMT dose in the morning MRI scanning session and a placebo for the intensity rating study. For the afternoon placebo session, even without being dosed, I was definitely in an altered pre-hypnagogic state in the scanner. It makes me curious as to whether the very powerful magnets of the MRI could affect the brain in some way, but I see pink light pulsing in waves, and my imagination and memory recall is usually vivid. I feel deeply relaxed in there, despite it being very confined and very noisy, and I feel on the verge of sleep. Following this, I am interviewed and complete more questionnaire surveys. My second DMT dose for the morning scanning session was a fair bit higher, and I could tell this within a few seconds of being injected. There was a dramatic change in contrast, accompanied by a very powerful feeling of acceleration or expansion as I entered the DMT space. I encounter similarly very beautiful, very ordered geometric visual patterns, but this time much more expansive and all-encompassing and very much fast-moving. I recall this experience being one of the supreme order and of supreme chaos, two opposites but at the same time. This was more imposing given its intensity compared to the first lighter dose, and I have to say I rather enjoyed the MRI scanner setting, despite being cramped and restricted in movement, despite the incredible noise. It was experienced as a positive setting for a DMT trip. And I really didn't detract. One of my friends who took part in the same study thought the same. The interaction of the loud and highly repetitive rhythmic MRI scanner sounds was interesting and had a big effect on the visual aspect of the experience. What I was hearing really seemed to cross over with what I was seeing, and at the peak, it was hard to know which was which. I might add, this experience was rather longer than the previous one, but also a little bit harder to recall afterwards. On my re-entry, I experienced the same feelings of gratitude and feelings of love and empathy for the special people in my life. Despite the power and speed of the geometries I was moving through, I never forgot that I was part of a scientific study. Apparently, some other participants did forget this, and I remained absolutely still for the entire duration. I was commended for this by the researchers, who stated that I would be in the front of the queue should Imperial conduct brain imaging research with 5-MeO DMT. So there you have it, an experience I feel tremendous gratitude for having had the opportunity to have, and great to see scientific research on psychedelics start to expand into interesting new areas, and also great to encounter some really great people involved in this, not something I shall ever forget. Onwards.